Hi, I'm Nick from Hills. Congratulations on purchasing a new Trilogy Clothes Error. The Trilogy is one of 8 new clothes errors from Hills, and before we get into the assembly, I'm going to tell you a few great things about the Trilogy. The Trilogy's got a small footprint, which means it doesn't take up too much space in your house, and when it's not being used, you can fold it up flat and store it against the wall. The Trilogy's got 15 metres of drying space, more than enough for a large family's washing. And in addition, it's designed so that it leans back and has this long hangrail at the top. That means you can take your washing, put it straight on a coat hanger and hang the coat hangers along here. It's tall enough for pants, shirts and dresses. When you take the parts out of the bag, you're going to have 2 leg extensions, a hang tube and a latch assembly. A lower assembly, an upper tier with 7 lines, a middle tier with 6 lines and a lower tier with 5 lines. In the bag of fasteners, you'll find 2 end caps, 2 Phillips head screws, 2 hang tube screws, 4 socket screws with lock nuts and 2 tube connectors. You'll also need a 4mm hex key, which is included in the bag, and a Phillips head screwdriver. You may also need a hammer. So let's get into it. The first step is to take the lower assembly and lay it down so that the small hole on the joiner is facing up. Then take a leg extension, and at the narrow end you've got a small hole, and we're going to slide it in to the joiner so that the holes line up. Then take a Phillips head screw and your screwdriver and drop it into the hole, and now we just repeat the same process on the other side. The next step is to take your upper tier assembly, hold it so that the joiners curve upwards, and then place it underneath the leg extension tubes like this. Next, you take your hang tube and your hang tube connector, and you slide the hang tube connector into the end of the hang tube. Next, you want to take your end cap and place it in the end of the leg extension tube. Then take the hang tube and push it against the end of the joiner. Now take your hang tube screw, feed it through the fasteners to connect them all together. Now, there's 2 versions of the Trilogy Error. If you've got the original version, your hang tube screw has a dome cap on the end. If that's the case, you need to turn the Trilogy on its side and give it a few gentle taps to drive the screw into the fasteners. If you've got the current version, your hang tube screw will have a groove on the end which fits the 4mm hex key supplied with the product, in which case you just put the hex key in the end of the screw and do it up tight with that. Now repeat that process on the other side. Now the next step is to take the middle tier assembly and to lay it down over the top of the lines from the upper tier assembly, and to line the holes in the joiners with the holes in the leg extension tubes. Next up, you want to take the nut and place it into the groove on the joiner, then take your socket head screw and feed it through the joiner and the leg extension tube so that it meets the nut. Now make sure you don't over tighten the nut so that the tiers can open and close. And once that's done, repeat the process on the other side. The next step is to take the lower tier, which has 5 lines, and orientate it in the same direction as the middle tier. Line up the holes in the joiners with the holes in the lower assembly and screw them in the same process as with the middle tier. Now take your latch assembly, which has an S shape at one end and an L shape at the other end. You want the end of the S shape to be pointed down. Then the other end inserts into the hole in the lower assembly at a 45-degree angle, and insert the other end in. Now, the Trilogy is all assembled, and all that's left to do is to unfold it. Open the lower assembly, bring down the lower tier, the middle tier, and the upper tier comes over the top, and then bring the latch assembly over the top and onto the first rail of the lower assembly.